Let me talk about the Tigers this year first, because we'll get to some questions in a little bit. But somebody asked me when I walked in tonight, what about the manager? Manager's a good guy. We don't have any talent. And it's going to be 3, 4, 5 years because Chris Ilitch, who by the way is a hell of a guy, Chris Ilitch is not going to spend the money his dad did. He just isn't. He's not going to go out and spend $30 million on a Verlander or anybody else. It doesn't make any difference. He's got the one great philosophy that Jim Campbell had for years and years and years. If we can't develop him in our own organization, we don't want him. And that's what they're going to try to do over the next 5 years. That's the plan. And, the only way you get over that hump is with pitching. You can't do it with 4 Cabreras. You can't do it with 10 Cabreras. Because the Cabreras don't catch the ball well. They certainly don't run the first base very well. They don't hustle. They think because they hit 50 home runs a year that they're entitled. And when you make $35 million a year, I guess they're entitled to a whole lot of things. But that's what's going on here with this ball club. And if Ilitch maintains his ground, they're going to hire a new coaching staff, and they're going to send some guys out who have played the game for a change. And they're going to find some guys with arms, because the arm is the first thing. Forget the curveball, forget the slider, forget the changeup. If a guy can throw the ball hard, go get him. And it wasn't a tragedy yesterday with Holiday dying. I've been flying 50 years, and knock on wood, I'm still here. But it's just a shame when you lose a guy like that, and I'll tell you why. Not only was he a good pitcher, no question he was a good pitcher, he won a couple Cy Youngs, and just a standout citizen. There's a dinner I do every year up in New Hampshire, and they raise money for their community. They put out 1,200 tickets a year, and they sell every one of them for $200 or $300 a piece. And that too is for their community, people who don't have enough money to eat half the time. And Halliday, every year, now remember, they're making big money. Every year, Halliday either donated $25,000 or $75,000 a year. Every year. And he didn't publicize it, he didn't tell anybody about it, but they had to do something at the end of every dinner and say, oh, by the way, Halliday just gave us another $75,000. Wow. So, what a guy, I'm telling you. It's, and no phoniness about him at all. Stand-up guy. He was fun to talk to. And the first thing he ever said to me when I first met him 7, 8 years ago was, you got to tell me it's a lie. I said, what? He said, nobody could ever win 30. I said, no, it happened. I said, I got lucky. I played with a bunch of guys that knew how to play. He said, it's a lie. Nobody could win 30. Nobody. I said, well, I'll get the stats for you. I carry them in my back pocket. My wife says this to me all the time. She said, you guys are the luckiest guys in the world. I said, why? She said, because you guys, we didn't have cell phones back then. We didn't have cameras back then. She said, you guys would have never made your major league minimum to get your pension, for God's sake. You guys were crazy. I said, it wasn't as bad as everybody thinks, but it was pretty bad at times. And it was just, you know what? We had all played together for a long time. By the time we won the World Series, most of us have played together 6, 7 years already. And that's a long, especially in today's game. I mean, they play together 3 hours and they go somewhere else. And this was, you got close to everybody. You got close to the families. You knew everybody well. You went to dinner with everybody. And when you came home from trips, you got together and what have you. That doesn't happen anymore. And that's something the game has lost. A lot of other things it's lost. But on the other hand, if you didn't see, as they called it, the golden age in the 60s and 70s, you don't know what you missed. I mean, the game was that good. And the game was that much better than what it is today, especially the pitching. The pitching was exceptional. You had one 20-game winner after another. You had guys who threw the ball through a wall. There was never a competition about who throws harder. Hell, they all threw hard. Nobody wanted to get hit with a baseball when you were a hitter back then. But it was a fascinating time. This, I grew up in Chicago, as I said. This is still the best city I've ever played in. And I'm talking about whether we were visiting or whether we were the home team. This is the best city I ever played. Now, there's a lot of teams I love to pitch against. I love to pitch against the Angels because I don't think they had one major leaguer on their team. Minnesota, same problem, except for in the 60s, middle 60s when they had Jim Cott and Jim Perry and some of the other guys they had on their pitching staff. But the bottom line simply was, the game was so much better pitching-wise. And you know, in '69, when they reduced the size of the mound, in '68 to '69, they never consulted one player. Never asked us. See, our union wasn't really good at that time. We had no power at all. And all they wanted to do, and they made the announcement, well, we want more touchdowns scored than 1-0 ball games. And they got them. They're still having them. You know, so, but it's a different game, and I enjoy it. Outside of the World Series in '68, which I thought was the best World Series I'd ever seen, I think this World Series, if you like games like that where everybody just keeps playing until somebody finishes the game, boy, this was exciting this year. It really was. I mean, you hated to go to bed because you knew somebody was going to hit another 2-run homer. And I, you know what? I was thinking about it. I'm trying to think who the hell I was talking to. One of the umpires. I can't think of his name. He just wrote a book a year or two ago. Good umpire. I'll think of his name here in a minute. But he says that they did something to the ball. I can half buy it because the ball certainly reacted differently during this World Series than I've ever seen it. When guys, there's two things I look for. When guys start hitting home runs to the opposite field, a right-handed hitter hits it to the right field, a left-handed hitter hits it to left field, there's something going on. So it's either the ball or they're taking the funny juice again. And the last thing I heard is the funny juice. That's the last thing I heard during the summer this year. When you got a little guy, 5'2", 5'2", the bat is as tall as he is, and he's hitting home runs like he's Babe Ruth in his prime. Something's up. I don't care who you are, something's up. And I'm not criticizing the game. I just don't think when you've got a World Series like this going on, they don't want to know. Commissioner doesn't want to know. Presidents don't want to know. And nobody wants to know. They just want to see another 9-8 game. And it was certainly exciting as hell. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Anyway, anybody got some questions? Yes, by the way, when do we eat?